Hi, I'm George Pearson, and in this Photoshop Elements video, we'll be recreating this Chinese Navy poster, which has some real mistakes in it. The Photoshop technique is pretty good, which we can actually recreate here in Elements, but there are some real mistakes as well, which I'll go ahead and show you. But it's a good demonstration, a good practice on how to combine multiple images to make a poster. Now, if you enjoy this video, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and also click the like button as well. If you want to learn a lot more about working with Photoshop Elements, take a look at the complete training, and I have links for that in the description, either on Amazon or on my own website. Before we start the actual process of building this poster, let me just walk you through some of the mistakes they made in here. Most of these are just mistakes in choice of image, but some of them are also rather amusing as well. This has gotten a lot of flack in the news. It just came out. Came out a 3 days ago, and I'm making this video here. Let me show you a few of those things. First one, of course, is this is China's aircraft carrier. They have one aircraft carrier right now. That jet right there is actually a Russian fighter jet, and this particular picture is a Russian fighter jet. It's a MiG-35 that's used in air shows. It has a special paint job, kind of bright blue tail, very recognizable. So it's the wrong jet. It's not the jet used on the aircraft carrier. The shadow underneath here is a shadow from a different kind of airplane. It doesn't match this fighter at all. We'll recreate that. The ships in the background here, these two ships, these are actually duplicates of one picture, and you can tell by this twin stack or structure in here that this actually is a U.S. Navy boat and not a Chinese boat at all. We have these kind of strange submarines down here. We can recreate those. And then we have this jet up here. This actually is a Chinese jet. This is the J-10, which is their Air Force jet, not the jet used for the aircraft carrier. So lots of mistakes on just what they have selected to use in here. Angles are all wrong. A lot of stuff is kind of weird. But again, it's a fun one to play around with. A lot of things have been composited, as you can see. The water is all new. The sky is all new. These little jet trails are new. So lots of stuff to play with and work with. On the right hand side, I couldn't find an exact match for the water, but we came pretty close on that. I couldn't find the sky, of course, but I found one that's pretty close. It'll be good enough for our demonstration in here. And everything else, I actually found the actual pictures. I think these ships, the picture isn't quite exactly right. The shadows are a little bit different than what they used in theirs, but it's the same kind of ship. And this actually is a Chinese submarine, so that works out just fine. Okay, let's go ahead and start the process of building this poster. I'm going to delete this file here, just take it off, and we'll keep this one up. I tend to do this if I'm trying to work with and match something else. I'll get a picture of that and just kind of float it on the window and have that as a reference. Now, if all you're getting is this kind of a layout, go up to the Edit menu, come down to Preferences and General, and right here make sure that Allow Floating Documents in Expert Mode is checked, and also Enable Floating Document Window Docking. With both of those checked, you can then grab the title bar and drag it out and float your window. Okay, let's now make a new file. File New and Blank File. I have mine set for a width of 4 and a height of 6, resolution 300. It's the default Photoshop Elements size, except that I've reversed these two numbers. And choose OK. There we are. And I'll make this one larger. The reason why I'm floating this is because you need to be zooming in and out quite a bit to get this just right. There's a lot of little detail in this, and it makes it easier having a larger area to work on, especially if you're working on a vertical image like this. If I had this dock, we'd only be seeing just a small part of that. Okay, so here's our basic image. Now I'll be placing in a lot of files into this and working up to build the image. We'll work from the background to the foreground, kind of a standard way of doing that. So I'll start off with bringing in the water, our ocean. Now we need to find the height of that right down here, and it's about 3.5, 3.25. It's in there somewhere. It's below halfway. Here's the halfway on this picture. It's below halfway. So I'll pull a guideline down. I'll bring it down to about, well, there's 3.5. That looks pretty close right there. So we'll do 3.5 on our guideline. We'll use that for our horizon line in there. Maybe it's a little too low. I'll bring it up just a little bit. So that's about 3 3/8 in there for that horizon line. Okay, let's open up our first image. We have this set of images in here that we'll be working with. There is the aircraft carrier right there. There's the jet for the aircraft carrier. We'll use this picture for the shadow for the jet. There's the boat in the background. Here's the jets in the sky. There's the sub. Here's the American flag. Here's our water. And then here's the sky. We'll be combining all those together. Now I want to place those images, so we'll go up here to File and Place. And we'll start off with our water pick right there. Choose Place. The reason why I'm placing that is it brings it in and fills these, makes it as large as it can on the page. So it's a good starting point. And then if I make any adjustments on this, Photoshop Elements goes back and readjusts from the original image. So it retains as much quality as possible. On some of these pictures, we'll be converting those to regular graphics later, but for right now, let's go ahead and do it this way. So I'll pull this down just like that. Now it's too short. As you can see here, I want to have the horizon line up here. So I'm just going to stretch this out a little ways, give us some room to work with. And I'll grab the upper right-hand corner. I'll just drag this up until the horizon line matches our guideline. You can then move it around to find where you want the water to be. It's all about the same. There's a bit of a darkness down here, which I kind of like. So I want to have that done. This will help to hide some of the bottom of the aircraft carrier. And choose OK. So there's the basic water in here. Now it's too strong at this point, so I want to soften this up a little bit. We'll do that with a Gaussian blur. I'm going to show our layers again over there. There's the layers. And come up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur. Now notice here it can't do this on a smart layer, and by default you get smart layers if you place an image. So we now have our position fine, but I need to get rid of that smart layer. Easy to do. Just right click, and then we're going to simplify the layer, which is right there. When the icon is gone, bottom right hand corner of the thumbnail, we now can apply our Gaussian blur. So blur, Gaussian blur. So it just kind of softens that up quite a bit. Now on this one, I'm going to do a real small blur. I'm going to use a 1. It's just a bit. So here it is without, and here it is with. You can see how it really softens that up nicely. It gives us a much better looking water surface with just that 1 pixel blur. Just a very, very slight amount. Okay, so there's the water. Let's now bring in our sky onto this. File. Again, replacing this. And there's our sky picture. Choose Place. We'll bring that in. Now once again, this is too small, so I need to enlarge the image. And I want the horizon line being just above this building over here on the left-hand side. So it'll be kind of in here somewhere. So I'll just drag this down and move it over a little bit and drag out some more just until those parts of the image are now hidden. I can come a little bit lower or not. Looks like we're right about as far as we can go. Just make sure you don't have any of this content in here above that horizon line. And then let's place this cloud over here a little bit towards the right, just a bit off center, but not much. And choose OK. Now I want to have just the cloud showing and none of the stuff down here showing. So to do that, I need to hide this bit right down here. Now that's easy to do with a layer mask. Let's go over and grab the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to just drag this until it comes right down to the guideline. And with that selection made, just click on the layer mask button, and there's our layer mask. We can now hide that guideline. Go up here to View and come down and uncheck Guides. There it is. Now I want to soften that edge just a little bit right there, and I can do that by going over here to the layer mask side. Look for that light blue outline. If you don't see that, if it's over here, just go over here, double click, look for that light blue outline, and we're going to blur this just a touch. It's going to blur the layer mask just a touch. Filter and blur, Gaussian blur. Now on this one, let's bring the blur here to a 6.5. So there it is without, and here it is blurred. Just a little blur. Now notice up here, we get kind of a weird little highlight along that edge. We're seeing it nicely down here, but kind of a little highlight up here on the edges. You can see that as I click that on and off. We'll fix that in just a second, but it just softens down that horizon a bit. I like that better. Okay, now I need to get rid of that little bit of this highlight showing. We'll just paint that out. White shows, black hides. I want white at the top, so let's just reverse our colors. Grab the paintbrush. Here's our paintbrush, and let me just squeeze this in so we can see our settings down here. Hard edge brush is fine. I want the opacity at 100. Let's just bring this up to about 50 maybe is good. Let's type in 50, and then just starting right here, right above the horizon, I'm just going to paint straight up on that edge, and then straight up on the right edge. There we go. And that gets rid of that. I'll do the top just in case. I'm not seeing anything, but just in case we'll be consistent here. So that cleans up our layer mask, and there's the water for us. Now, the colors are a little bit off in here from what we have over here. We need to work on adjusting the colors. We'll be doing this back and forth a little bit as we go. But we can start with a couple of adjustment layers. Let's first do an adjustment layer for the water down here. Go up to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and Levels. And where it says Use Previous Layer to create clipping mask, make sure that's selected. Choose OK. Here's our levels. Now in this one, I'm going to bring the darks up a bit. Like that. See, as I go darker, it looks more like what we have over here. The number you want on this one is 56. That's what I used before. And let's adjust the white in a little bit. Bring our whites down like that. And the number you want for this is 237. There we go. So that's a lot closer now to our water. If I hide it and show that, you can see how that has really brought those colors in for us. So there's the water part of this. Do the same thing for the sky. Go up to your sky layer and add an adjustment layer up here. Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Levels. Here we go. Again, check that checkbox. Choose OK. And on this one, same thing, but we want to have, again, some more black in here. A little darker on this one. Let's set this one to 56 again. And let's try the same setting on the light, and that looks pretty good. We'll be doing a little more darkening down here in just a bit, but this gets us pretty close to our coloration in there. Again, 56 and 237, same as we used for the water. And there we go. Our background now looks pretty good, looks pretty accurate. Of course, there are different clouds because I couldn't find that picture, but this is pretty good. Okay, now we are ready to bring in the aircraft carrier. Let's just put this over here a little bit, and we'll place this picture again. Make sure you're on the top layer up here. Go up to File, Place, and there's the aircraft carrier. This is actually the actual picture which they used in their poster. I found that one online. Choose Place. There you go. See, it's a matching picture. If you look at the vehicles right here, all the vehicles match. It's exactly the same thing. They don't have a flag on this one, so we need to add our flag in a later step. Luckily for us, the aircraft carrier is just about the right size. It's a little bit off to the left, so I'm going to pull this down and pull it over just a little bit. And I think that's pretty close. I'm going to be using the arrow keys on my keyboard to kind of move this around a little bit and get it just exactly where I want it. And I think that is right there. Now I need to get rid of all of this water out here. We're going to be keeping the water down here, but only over to about this part. I want to keep those little waves up to this, and then we'll be doing a careful mask around everything else. So I'll start with making a tight mask in here. We'll go real tight along this part of the ship. around the back over to here, and then I'll just kind of come around like that and finish the mask off here. We'll then come back in and adjust the mask to bring it in tighter onto the waves. Now at this point I need to be much closer to this image, so I'll just stretch this out, go to the zoom tool, let's zoom in. That's probably good enough for this, so we'll start right down here and just work your way around the whole shape. Now it's important when you're using the polygonal lasso tool to not click too quickly, or the selection may collapse on you and close down. You'll have to then start over again. So take your time, breathe deeply, and just relax and work your way around the shape. One thing I like about the polygonal lasso tool is that it's very, very controllable. What you do is you click a point and you can then move your line to your next point. Just like that, a little click up, and then I can move my line out here. On straight lines you can go real far, and on more detail you have to have your clicks closer together. Just take your time and don't click too rapidly. I'll do just a part of this one live here, and I'll then pause the video and finish the rest. We'll be doing the same technique on the other elements in this picture, and on those I'll just jump right past the selection process to save time here in the video. But it's just a matter of just taking your time and working around. Again, things that are smaller have curves. You need more points closer together. Just don't click too fast and you'll be fine with this particular tool. Now I'm coming up towards the top of the picture, as you can see here. If you get to a point where you can't go any further, you can actually move the image, drag the image in by holding down the Shift key. We'll see that in just a second. Let's come right across to here. Okay, I'm right there. Now if I move up, I can move into the just outside of the rollers there. It will scroll automatically, or hold the space bar down and the tool becomes a hand. I can then move it around like this, reposition it, let go, and I'm right back to using the same tool again. Just a matter then of just working along and doing your selection. I'm going to leave off that little bit of an antenna there, and we'll do that later. At this point I'm going to pause the video. I'll finish my selection, and then as soon as I finish selection I'll bring the video back up again, and I'll show you how to move on to the next part of adjusting this selection. Okay, I've gone clear around the whole ship here, as you can see, and I came around outside of those waves. Let's make a layer mask at this point. You can see it right over here. Layer mask. There it is. All of that looks good. Now I need to come in a little bit down here with a soft brush and keep a little bit of the wave action down in there. So we'll want to still be here on the layer mask, and I can squeeze this down a little bit now. So you see our tools. There we go. Go to the paintbrush tool. Make sure that black is your foreground color, because black hides and white shows. And let's see our options down below. On this one I want a soft edge brush, so I'll just scroll down to get to the soft edge brushes, and probably about a 1 to 200 will be good. Let's try 200. That's too large. Let's do 100. That's pretty good. Now with an opacity at 100%, 100 pixels, I have black. I'm painting on the layer mask, and I'm just going to paint up like this and just kind of edge in up next to those waves. It gives me a little bit of a soft edge right down there and just blends the waves in to the water. There we go. That takes care of that bottom edge. Okay, the ship is now in place. We can zoom out a little bit again. Our positioning looks pretty good. Let's just see how that compares. Now the color is a little bit off. It's a bit warmer over here, so you need to cool the color down just a little bit. So we'll do that with an adjustment layer right here above this layer. Go up to Layer and New Adjustment Layer and Photo Filter. Make sure you check that checkbox right there. Choose OK. And on this one, let's change this to the Cooling Filter LBB There we go. Just kind of cools the picture down a little bit, and we'll close that out. And then I want to darken it down just a touch. So do another adjustment layer. Layer, adjustment layer, levels this time. And again, make sure that checkbox is checked. Choose OK. And I want to bring the darks in a little bit. As I pull those darks in, it's a little more contrasty. So right around 42, 47, in here something is pretty good. I think I'll do it at 42, just like that, and I think that gets us pretty close. There we are. So our ship is now in place, and let's put a little flag on top at this point. So we need to have a little flag right there. And again, that's another place on this one. So go up to File and Place. There's the flag we'll be using. Choose Place. There it is, full size, as you can see. I'm going to just check OK, and let's squeeze this down a bit, pull from the corner, and it squeezes down proportionally, and it'll get it down a lot smaller like that. We can now zoom in on the flag and a little better positioning on this. So there's the top of the ship, there's the flag. It's the wrong direction, so let's flip this layer, Image, Rotate, Flip layer horizontal. There it is. That's the right position. And I'll squeeze down some more. Now looking at this picture, it needs to be about the same size as this thing right in here. So kind of in there somewhere, looks pretty good. And it's up just a little ways, so I think about like that. I'll need to extend out the mast just a touch. Notice I've lined it up with this thing, so this looks like this is part of the mast. Now I need to come in and do a layer mask on this one as well, so I'll just zoom in. There we go. This one's pretty fast and easy. So, selection tool. This is the polygonal selection again. And we'll come around and do a little selection right around the flag in here. And we'll use a layer mask. And this is the same basic technique for everything that we'll be adding into the picture. It's going to be positioning it, rotating it, flipping it, whatever it needs, and then putting a layer mask on it to hide the background, and then do color adjustments or other adjustments as needed. So same process for all of those. There we go. Layer mask. There it is. Now I want that pole in here, but I also want to get this the right angle. Notice this flag is kind of aimed down further than this one. This is more to the side. This one's down further. Let's fix that. Double click on the image side of this layer and go up to Image, Transform, Skew. I'm just going to grab the middle control here and pull this down until it's at about the same angle as the one in our example photo, and choose OK. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Now I need to get this little bit in here of that flagpole. So I'm going to take this layer, copy it up here to a new layer, and then I'll use my cursor keys to just tap that down so that the flagpole is in the right spot. About like that, I think will work out pretty well. Now I can come in and use the layer mask again to hide the parts of this that I don't want. Black hides, white shows. So let's make sure we're on our black color. We are. Let's go to our paintbrush, and let's get a much smaller brush. This time I think a hard edge is better, and a fairly small brush. So 3 is good. Real small brush. And let's paint out that top bit right there. And then I'll come right down the flag, just like that, kind of touch off the bottom, and then we'll just paint out this foreground flag in here and get that out of the way. And that will leave us with the right flag. Now at this point I have 2 layers on here. I need to add an adjustment on this, but I want to have the adjustment clipped to that one layer. I can't do that with the 2 layers, so I'm going to collapse these 2 layers down, merge these together. Now when I do that, we'll be losing the layer mask, So make sure that everything is okay and you're happy with this before you make this merge. This is just a little bit of a shortcut. Now, if I was doing this and I wanted to have this control left here, I could take both of these. If you have Photoshop Elements 15, you could take both of your layers, put them into a new layer group, and then apply the adjustment to the group. I'm going to do it the way that works with older versions of Photoshop as well, which is simply to right-click, merge layers, and it's now just one picture. That's all we need on this actually, since everything else is fine there. Okay, now that I have that, I want to come in and adjust the levels on the flag in here. And we can do the levels on the flag by using an adjustment layer. So layer, new adjustment layer, and levels right there. Again, make sure that you clip the, you're doing clipping mask in here on the layer so it clips right to just that one layer. Now, I want to darken this down and not do anything else to it. So to do that, I'm just going to come down to the output levels down here and I'll pull the white down. Just as I pull the white down, the image just darkens down. I'll take it down to about 195 right there. That looks pretty good. And we'll just close that down. Kind of blends things in. Now, there's a bit of a hard edge right here. I want to fix that. I'll come back down to our flag layer. Let's go back to our, let's go to the eraser this time. And I want a soft edge eraser. Just scroll down a little bit. Soft edge, maybe about 17. Looks pretty good. I'm just going to just tap that bottom just a bit. Just softens up and blends in that edge. I just kind of erase it off that edge. The soft edge gives me a little bit of a gradual erase on there. Okay, so there it is. There's the flag. Let's see how we're doing. Fit on screen. And I'll click down here someplace. Looking pretty good. Maybe our ship was a little bit too low or a little bit too small. Hard to see, but we're awfully close in there on that. Again, their water is different than our water, so it can't be an exact match. But I think we're doing well at this point. Let's now work on this airplane right in there. Let me zoom in on that one so you can see that airplane. A little hard to see here. It's a bad JPEG picture, but there is that airplane. The real clue on this one was that tail in there. Notice that the shadow is different from this. We have two engines out here and a different kind of a tail. So we'll do something that will mimic that a little bit as well. But we need to change our airplane and put our airplane in here. Well, let's pull this over. Let's zoom in a bit better on our new picture. You can see how much more resolution we have on our image than they had on theirs, because this, of course, has been, you know, who knows how many times this has been saved and compressed and stuff and gotten a real bad quality, and we're getting much better quality over here. Okay, now the image for this area for the jet fighter, we'll be placing that image as well. And to place, let's just zoom out. Now, this is at 100%. I look right down here, bottom left-hand corner. It's 100%, so I know what that zoom level is here. We'll go back to Fit on Screen and Move Tool, File, Place. And we'll grab our jet. There it is right there. This actually is a MiG-35, in case you're wondering, a Russian MiG-35. Click on Place. There it is. Now, I came in down below there, so I want to pull this up. You choose OK to set that one in. Pull this layer up here above all of the layers for our ship. Now, when I did this, make sure that all of these are clipping in properly, and if this clips in like this, sometimes happens as you're dragging layers around, just right-click on that and release clipping mask, and that moves it back out again. So just double check, make sure it hasn't been moved in to match this clipping mask. So there's the airplane. This is the exact same photo which they used. Notice the tail in here. This is a Russian fighter jet which is used at air shows, which is why they have the big fancy paint job on it. So it's kind of an air show display. Now we need to flip the image, go up to Image, Rotate, and flip Layer Horizontal. There we go. Notice that the angle is a little bit different, so I'll grab the corner, click on a corner like that, and then come just outside the corner and get this kind of a strange bent arrow thing. You now grab that and you can rotate that around until the angle is correct, and that looks pretty close right there. Choose OK. So there's our rotation. Obviously now it's far too large, so I'll grab one of our corners and just drag this in. Bring it way down, kind of like that, and I'll get it about where we want it. Choose OK. It's still too big, but it's in a position now to work on this fairly well. I want to see a little bit more over here on our sample. I want to see that corner right there so I can see what I'm doing on the size. Okay, let's now zoom in on the airplane and let's do our mask. And for something like this, you can zoom in real tight. The tighter you are zoomed in, the easier it is to do the mask. And I'll be using the polygonal lasso tool again, and it's making a careful selection all around the jet fighter, using the shift bar to move the image as I need to, and I'll make that selection. So I'll just pause the video right now. I'll do that selection, and then I'll bring the video right back up again. Okay, there's the selection. Let's now add the layer mask on that, and there we go. Nice clean edge on that. I'm going to back out just a touch here, and let's adjust our picture so we can kind of see what we're dealing with here. So the jet is too large. I'll bring that size down, grab, there's a corner right there, grab the corner, and let's just pull that down a little bit. Notice our blue tail in there. So you see here there's a secondary tail is inside of the ship here. The exhaust, or the intake rather, right there is right up against the edge of the ship. And I can use that to help to determine exactly where this needs to be. And there's the darkness here, that's that, and the back tail is right up in that area there. About like that, so let's bring it down just a bit more. Looks like right about in there is pretty accurate, pretty close to what they have. And choose OK. Then you can just use the arrow keys on your keyboard and move things around if you want to just do little fine tweaks on that. But there we go, there's the jet. Okay, now we need to have this funky shadow down here, which is something different than what that is. That's kind of fun. We'll do that one next. Again, let's back out, so view, and let's zoom out. Once we have that shadow in, we can do any adjustments we need at that point. I think this one looks pretty good color-wise. I think we're okay color-wise on this. Let's just fit on screen. Go up to File and come down to Place. Here's images. Not really sure why I'm not seeing my previews in here, but that's one you want right there. Choose Place. There it is. We have our picture. Choose OK on that one. And again, we need to resize this a bit. I'll just pull a corner, bring it way down like that, and stick it about in the right spot and choose OK. And we can now zoom in on this. And we'll be using this as the basis for the shadow. And we need to check our size. It's a bit large still. That's pretty close. Choose OK. Now once again, I need to make a selection around this image, so I'll pause the video and do the selection. Then I'll bring the video right back up again once that selection is finished. We'll then do the layer mask, final position adjustment, and then convert this into a shadow. Alright, so there's the selection. Let's make a layer mask of that. There's our layer mask. Now I need this in behind that jet fighter, so I'll just pull the layer down one. It's now in behind. And now we need to adjust the position so that we get it in here as a shadow. Notice it's about, the front's about where the intakes are and the tail's about underneath the tail. So I'll shrink this down. So front's about right. That looks good. Tail's about right in there. Let's double check our position. If you need to rotate it just a little bit, click on one of your corners and come just outside. Give it a little rotation. I'm going to squeeze it up just a bit too. There we go. And that's looking pretty close. Now this isn't the same plane that they used. I couldn't find a plane that was an exact match to what they used for the shadow, but this is pretty close. This will give us the exact same effect. Okay, so there's the position. Now we need to turn this thing into a shadow for this jet. Again, kind of a weird choice, weird way of doing it, but that's what they went with. We're trying to match them as close as possible on this. So let's do an adjustment layer on this layer. This is actually an aerial tanker. Go up to layer, come down to adjustment layer and levels. Again, make sure you check that check mark, choose OK. That links it to just that one level, one layer rather. And now let's adjust this so that we're just seeing black on this one. So I'm going to bring the darks up like that. Just want to clear the right hand side, and I'll bring the whites clear down to this side so that all I have is black. So I pulled the white on the output wherever here to the left, and I pulled the black sweeper to the right. And that just gives me a real fast black silhouette. The reason why I'm doing it this way is I can always come back and I can make adjustments if I want to on this thing. It gives me some freedom in here to play with this by having this as an adjustment layer. Choose OK. Come back down to the image layer, and we want to be blurring this out a little bit. We'll do a Gaussian blur again on this one. So filter and blur. Now you can't do a Gaussian blur on one of these smart objects, so we'll need to change this. It's no longer a smart object. Just right click on the name and simplify layer. There we go. You want to get rid of that little icon right there. We're leaving the jet plane as a smart object because it doesn't matter for us, but on this we'll need to blur this out. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and just bring this up a little bit and bring down the blur and have just a little bit of blurring on the edge. Looks about 2.4, 2.5 in here is pretty good. Just a nice soft edge on that one. Choose OK. And then let's bring the opacity down so we can see a little bit of the runway down here, the deck through it, which makes it look more like an actual shadow. I think we're looking pretty good at that point. Yep, I think that will do the job for us. So there's the shadow for the jet. Okay, let's go ahead and hit this back to actual pixels right there. That looks pretty good. And let's do fit on screen. So there's where we are at this point. I'll come down to the bottom layer so that everything looks nice and clean. There we are. Let's bring this back, view, and fit on screen. Okay, so we've done the ship. That's looking really good. We have our jet plane. We have our kind of a funky shadow underneath of that. We have our flag on there. Background's all done. Now at this point, I'm going to stop this video, break this discussion in half, and then I'll finish the rest of this in the second video. I'll be posting these at the same time, so they'll both be up there to view one after another. I'm just breaking this in half at this point to make it easier to follow through. Okay, so there's the first half of our poster, and we're ready to move on to the second half, which is bringing in our jet fighters. These little guys, these will go pretty fast, and then putting in our stars and our text, and then final little adjustments and details. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com.